Patel of UCL's European Institute for more on this story. Well, good evening to you. So would you say this is a grand plan by Boris Johnson's government to get what some maintain is actually their end game, a no-deal Brexit?
Well, I'm not sure if I would use the phrase grand plan, but it's always been relatively obvious that these proposals were never going to fly with the EU, and they violated the EU's core principles on not having no border checks in Ireland and not giving the UK a way to unilaterally exit the backstop. So this plan was never going to be accepted. And I don't know if this was a grand plan by Boris Johnson, but I'm pretty sure that his government and his team were probably well aware that these proposals would never be accepted by the EU. So this was probably already factored in, and it's unlikely that Boris Johnson's government will ever be able to come to an agreement that's acceptable to the EU as well. So this was probably always going to happen. I'm just not sure if I'd use the phrase grand plan.
Okay, maybe strategy possibly, but with talks still going on, and if we're staying with this idea of strategy, Michel Barnier, the EU Brexit negotiator, what does he do now when he meets with David Frost, the Brexit negotiator on Britain's side? If they do indeed, and there is a big question mark there, want to reach a deal?
I'm not really sure where they can go from here because, the comments that were made by Donald Tusk earlier were relatively strong. And what reportedly what Angela Merkel said was that the only way effectively that a deal can be done is if in some way or another Northern Ireland stays in the customs union. That's similar to what the Irish Prime Minister Leo Varadkar said on the record a few days ago. He said that the only way we'll be able to deal with this is if there's some kind of customs union for Northern Ireland. So with that in mind, there probably is no deal that can be done between the current government and the EU at the moment. And probably the EU are aware of this. They're probably aware that in the end, Johnson will be forced into requesting an extension because of the legislation in the UK, which will mandate him to do so. And I guess now the EU are probably going to wait and see. They'll say yes to that extension, and they're assuming there'll be an election, and then it's impossible to say what will happen then. But I don't think there's going to be any kind of deal between this current UK government and the EU, because there's no landing zone unless the government were to radically change its position.
Okay, well, briefly now, though, there's much talk of a clean break in a no-deal scenario. Is such a clean break something possible, in your opinion? Does that exist?
I think that one of the biggest myths is that no deal puts an end to this saga. So Boris Johnson's current slogan and mantra is that he's the one to get Brexit done, which implies that if the UK leaves without a deal on the 31st of October, that of course, that is technically Brexit is achieved, but the word done implies that the whole saga is finished and everyone can move on. I don't think that would be the case. I think that on day one of no deal, on November the 1st, on November the 2nd, the two sides are going to have to come back together and discuss the very important issues of what on earth are they going to do about all of the delays and blockages at the border. What are they going to do with all of the citizens and their rights? So no deal just means you have no deal, and then probably the two sides will start negotiating again, and the EU will probably say, well, the only way we're going to sign up to anything to smooth this process is if you sign up to what you agreed to before, i.e. the backstop and the rest of the withdrawal agreement. So this idea of a clean break is a bit of a myth, and the 31st of October would probably be the beginning of another long saga of negotiations, even if we do have no deal. But I don't think that's going to happen because of this legislation in the UK, the Ben Act.
Okay, well, the fallacy of a clean break. Well, thanks so much, Oliver Patel from UCL's European Institute.